And they heard from the community that we are the heart and soul of Hendersonville. But you know what? God has a larger dream for us. God wants us to be the heart and soul of Jesus Christ in Hendersonville. That's a larger task. Takes different tools. But that's what they heard. And when I got here, they said, "You're the one supposed to lead us to do this." Well, okay. That's what I asked for, wasn't it? Not for me to bring a vision, but for you to listen to God's vision. And then my job is to help you flesh that out. And then hold your feet to the fire to see that you do it. And your job was to help me flesh that out and hold my feet to the fire to be sure that I do it. Now, as a part of that, they said your primary job is to hold the vision up through preaching, through teaching, through conversations, through writing. And that means that some of the things that preachers ordinarily do, they said I was supposed to do less of, hand off. So I haven't been to all of your social events, you know? And I would love to come to those because I'm a social kind of guy. I like people. But that wasn't my primary task. I haven't done all the weddings. I've done some. I haven't done all the funerals. I've done some. I haven't done all the visiting. We share in that. Because your visioning committee said your job, Michael, is to help us flesh out this vision and then help us live it out. And we don't want anything else to get in the way of that. It is the one star you're supposed to watch. There are lots of other stars around, but there's the one star you follow. And I've tried to do that. I haven't done it perfectly, as you well know. But the result of the spiritual formation, ministry teams listening and discernment, the result of that visioning groups listening and yearning and their assignment to me is what we're beginning today. The great adventure, becoming apprentices of Jesus Christ. First, we thought we could borrow a book that was done in Fort Lauderdale at the church our bishop served. We thought we could just ask them for their book and use their book. And they were very gracious. They said, use anything you want. And it was helpful. It was a springboard. But you see, they were looking for what God was calling them to do, for who God was calling them to be. We had to look for who God was calling us to be. So as it turned out, while it was an inspiration, we used literally none of the book that we borrowed from them. It was produced by this congregation, by your staff, clergy and lay, by your lay leaders, by volunteers who helped your official lay leadership. So many people have been about this particular resource to help us understand who it is we are. And now my job, as I said before, is to hold your feet to the fire. I'm going to continually ask you the question, what does this have to do with making apprentices of Jesus Christ? I'm not just going to ask it of the Spiritual Formation Committee and the evangelism group. I'm going to ask it in trustees. I'm going to ask it in finance. I'm going to ask it in staff parish. I'm going to ask it as we choose lay leadership. What does this have to do with making apprentices for Jesus? And if it doesn't have to do with making apprentices for Jesus, why are we doing it? If this is what we believe God is calling us to do and be, then we better be about it. Otherwise, we need to change what we say God is calling us to do and who God is calling us to be. Because I'm not sure if I was clear about this earlier. That's the only important question. Did you get that idea? I believe it is. You see, there are a wide range of folks who come. Some of those folks are just spectators. And it's okay to be a spectator. You just come to see what's happening, see what's going on, to see what you might learn about this Jesus. And spectators are also watching us. to see what they can learn about Jesus from how we treat them and how we treat each other, and especially how we treat people who are marginalized or rejected in the culture. But spectators are welcome. Then you have admirers of Jesus. Those are the folks who have come for a while and they think Jesus is a really cool guy, along with their favorite football player and basketball player and writer and music group and musician. And I mean, he's a really great guy, and we admire him like we admire so many other admirable people in the culture. And admirers are welcome. Then you have followers, people who say, no, Jesus is head and shoulders above all these other folks I admire. And I'd like to learn to follow him. I would like to do what he tells me to do. Most of Jesus' disciples in the Gospels fall into this category. They have no idea what he's talking about most of the time, as many of us don't. When he starts talking about loving your enemies and doing good to those who hate you, they just kind of turn it off, you know, because it goes against everything they've been taught in the culture. But they still have this deep desire to be around him, to learn from him, sometimes to emulate him and sometimes not. And then there are apprentices. Apprentices attempt to learn as much as they can from their master about how their master does what he does best. What Jesus did best was to live a life that totally communicated God's presence and love in the world. And that's what we are called to, if we are going to be apprentices. As I said before, it's okay to be spectators, it's okay to be admirers, it's okay to be followers, but I'm putting you on notice. Our goal for every person who comes, no matter where you are on that spectrum, is that one day you will be an apprentice of Jesus Christ. You may even be someone who considers himself or herself a non-believer, or even someone who's angry and upset with God. That's okay, you're welcome too.